Hey everybody, welcome in once again to COPD Navigator House Call. My name is Mike Hess. I am the COPD dude. I am the host of this program as well as a couple others that we're trying to get going through our COPD Navigator network of shows and advocacy groups and everything else that we're trying to go on, partnering with many in the COPD community, including Bob Subkowiak, who stopped by yesterday and stopped by the program yesterday. Bob runs COPD Breathe Strong America and the state affiliates or breakout groups or whatever we want to call those. Bob was gracious enough a while back to send me a T-shirt, so we're supporting our COPD community today with that regard. For those of you who may be new to the program here, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. We've been doing live shows for a couple of years. As I mentioned, I am the administrator of a group on Facebook that is called, started off being called COPD Navigator. It is now the discussion group associated with that name. It was actually just something new today. I'm catching that there are some subtitles coming through on Facebook, and that's new. Are you seeing subtitles? Let me know. That's interesting. It's not something I set up, but that's kind of a cool idea. I like the idea of that. So, in any event, I actually did a little bit of research and found that it is actually May 10th. Is the anniversary of COPD Navigator. This coming Sunday is technically Navigator Day. We'll probably observe that on Monday, maybe do something a little bit special. In the last couple of years, the group has evolved a little bit further. As I mentioned, we have a page to make sure that things are a little bit easier to find on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel. Maybe you're finding us on YouTube. And we are working on a website. It's work in progress also because we are somewhat limited by time and all that kind of fun stuff, as so many advocacy efforts are, but we continue to plug along with all that stuff. New to the repertoire of COPD Navigator, as you can see just above me here, is a new program we're putting together through the use of all this wonderful multimedia technology, web conferencing, and everything else. We're using the Zoom platform to start doing a little bit more in discussion groups and to have a little bit more interactivity, while absolutely love to have these kinds of interactions where you're going to hopefully type me some questions here as you're getting involved in the program. It is often nice to have some face-to-face contact, or at least I guess we can call it screen-to-screen, so to speak. And that's what we're going to try tonight. We're trying a Zoom conference for our first time. I have watched a couple with what we did on the Zoom platform. I helped out my wife a week or so ago. She's a nurse practitioner, comes by and is one of our in-studio guests from time to time, which is convenient because she's not far from here, obviously. But she does a lot with obesity medicine, metabolic medicine, and we held a virtual support group about a week ago, helping her folks get the support they need from other people on the path and from some clinicians. So we are trying to bring that style to COPD Navigator. A good friend of mine, Joe Morrison, has done this with a slightly different platform. Not that there's anything wrong with that or anything else. He has done, I think, the Blue Jeans platform a couple weeks ago, and I believe coming up next week again, they have their regular bi-weekly patient support and information sessions through their Right to Breathe page. And I just kind of figured the more the merrier. The more folks we can get speaking with the voice, the more likely it is that we're all going to be heard and hopefully make some changes in healthcare. Change is a big topic on my mind today, of course, for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you've been watching the show for a while, you've probably noticed that we have kind of switched backgrounds a little bit here because of our pandemic situation. We've been doing a lot of working at home stuff and trying to catch up on some projects that I wanted to do for quite a while and try to bring a little bit more high quality information to everybody out there. Um, I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. I don't have the comments that I often get, and I'm a little bit nervous because this is a slightly different setup. So if somebody just wants to kind of say hello, that would be helpful. Anyway, um, what was I saying? Oh, change and all that. So, along that line, we've been trying to do a little bit more of the social things. Earlier this week, we had, as Kelly was handling some nutrition and diet questions, I was talking about lung stuff, and Emma was practicing some self care and helping us out with redoing some of our nails and all that stuff. I felt a little bit bad because being colorblind, it was a little bit hard to tell, but one of the colors that she got going for me, and actually we'll bring it a little bit closer to the camera here. That didn't work as well as I thought. I guess I need to get another key light back there. But we got some orange fingernails working, which was kind of cool. And orange is, of course, the main advocacy color of the of COPD. And interestingly enough, fun story here. The other colors on the hand are blue, because that was another topic of some discussion way back in the day. I was adamant that the other advocacy color, for example, like if you go to the COPD Foundation's website, was adamant that it was purple and blue, because that's what it looked like. And everybody else in my family, not being colorblind, with the exception of one of my sons, who is like me colorblind, was saying, no, that's blue. Why do you keep saying purple? Why has everything got to be purple all the time? Why is it purple? And I said, that's the color. And to the point where we actually got out with on the computer on a website. There's actually a little tool that you can do the little eyedropper thing and find out the exact color value of anything on the screen. And turns out, if you look at the official COPD Foundation logo, it's blue. What are you going to do? So I got blue. She got me blue and orange with some sparklies to do some self-care kind of stuff. And we talked about that too. One of the upsides to social media is that we can have these kind of conversations, but it can be a little much sometimes. That was one of the things that she highlighted, even being one of the younger generations out there, and stereotypically perhaps super into social media. It can even be a bit much for her sometimes. It's kind of the downside to a lot of these technological wonders that we have. They can be a good tool, or a tool for good, or a tool for less good. So that change, of course, has been going on. Been doing a lot of shifting around, making it a little bit more convenient so that we can have more people in the studio. I'm looking forward to having Kelly speak on more nutrition topics, and having Emma show up from time to time, doing a lot of that fun stuff. But it's been an interesting evolution. Another thing that's been on my mind as far as change goes is how badly we need change in healthcare. It was really, I mean, not that it's any surprise, not that it's any revelation or anything like that, but it was really reinforced with me again today. Doing still a lot of work from home in my current day job. One of the things that I do a lot is prior authorizations for various medications. And we had a situation this morning where we've got a particular patient who's been on a nebulized medication for over a year now. Gets it through Medicare, has I believe a Medicare Advantage program. Could be just a straight Part D plan. I'm not 100% sure. But one of the quirks of Medicare is that nebulized medications have always been available through Medicare Part B. For those who may not be as familiar with, and yes, John knows where I'm going with this, the CVS story. Um, One of the quirks of Medicare is because certain medical equipment like nebulizers don't do any good without the juice, the nebulized solution that goes in there. Those medications have always been covered under Medicare Part B. Back in the day, it wasn't really a problem because no other prescriptions were covered by Medicare. This was, if you go all the way back to before the early 2000s, before there was this whole Part D thing, the only prescription medications were the ones that you could either get like via injection in a physician's office or a provider's office, or a nebulizer stuff. Part A covers all the stuff in the hospital. Part B covers all the stuff in the clinics and the durable medical equipment and all that stuff. So nebulizer stuff could be obtained through Medicare Part B. Well, then the whole idea of the getting prescription medications through Medicare came up, and we came up with this Medicare Part D, and everybody was happy for a while, even though it still has a lot of issues with it, and it's been great for a lot of the cynical part of me says it's been great for the bottom lines of a lot of the pharmacy benefit managers that have been out there. And then we also have this Medicare Part C, these Medicare Advantage programs, which add another level of stuff to it. So long story short, we get this person's been on, a Medicare recipient has been on a nebulizer for a long time now. And we get a notice that it's time to renew their prior authorization or Part B versus D determination or whatever. Sometimes they're not even real consistent with what they call it. And so we got that and filled out the form. And first I got a fax back that said we need additional information, including their diagnosis code. And I thought, well, I'm pretty sure the other half dozen faxes we did last year have that diagnosis code. And once you get a thing like asthma or COPD or anything that's going to require you to use a nebulizer all the time, it doesn't really go away in most cases. So, all right, so we did that. Then I get a call that said, okay, so and went to my voicemail, and I listened to the voicemail, and they said, well, okay, so I'm calling in regards to this medication. It's a long-acting beta agonist. I won't say the brand name, but you can probably figure it out. There aren't too many of them in the nebulizer. And actually, well, I guess I will say the brand name. I'm not affiliated with this company, not remunerated by them in any case, but they said, well, I'm calling about the Brovana nebulizer solution. And I need to verify that that's actually being administered via a nebulizer. Huh. Okay. I guess so. I mean, I guess when we're in respiratory school, we get taught that you can put albuterol down the endotracheal tube if you're trying to resuscitate somebody. That can be a thing. You can put certain things in there. I think you can. I want to say there's well, sometimes we can dump like an inhaled steroid. Sometimes can be just held up here. There are incredibly rare cases where a nebulizer medication is not done by a nebulizer means. But again, this is a thing that has been done for a year for this patient, twice a day, every day. Exactly. Lindsay used Brovana and a nebulizer. Yeah. So do 99.99% of anybody else who uses Brovana. That's how it works. But apparently that wasn't good enough. So I called back and I talked to a little frontline customer service person. First of all, there was a whole rigmarole because the address in our records didn't match their records, and I didn't really know what to do with that information because I can't control what address we have and I can't control what address they have. And I certainly can't control it in the middle of a pandemic when everybody is isolated and working from 3 different spots and all that kind of stuff. So eventually we figured that out, and I got transferred to another person who claimed to be a pharmacist, who then I had to repeat everything, the whole process. Obviously, I don't know why we have the first level person if I can't get to if they can't help anything. And And then again, this was, again, to make a long story even longer, this was a 15-minute conversation to do a thing that I knew we had to do. I knew that we had to have the pharmacy bill this thing through Medicare Part B, because we've done it before, and that's where the nebulizer meds goes, and we know that, and the pharmacy knows it, but we've got to do this whole rigmarole with literally 10 pages of faxes, multiple phone calls, and what ends up with a 15-minute call with somebody, with two different people. Who does that help? Why do we do that? And so change has really been on my mind, because that's the kind of stuff we need to change. We need to advocate for that. And I know, again, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but this is why I want to use my voice. Because I know, as John has pointed out in previous times, it is really difficult to get together people with breathing problems to go fight. If you can't use the restroom without getting short of breath, if you can't go down to the mailbox without getting short of breath, how on earth are you supposed to get to the State House or to Washington, D.C., march up Capitol Hill? How in the world are you supposed to do that? Pardon me. And so it falls to us as clinicians, mostly, and hopefully we can recruit those folks who are still able to get around pretty easily, or who are motivated enough to drag all that stuff around in some cases. And we've got to be that voice. We've got to be that voice of change. We have to continue to fight against this bureaucratic BS and get this stuff done. Where I'm going with a lot of this stuff is I need to know what to fight for. I think all of that is stupid. I would guess that many of you think that's stupid also. But maybe I'm wrong. I shouldn't be assuming everything. There are, you know what they say about assuming. I can't assume these things. So what I like to do is ask, what are the issues that face you? What are the barriers that you're seeing? I worked with the COPD Foundation earlier this year, actually going back into last year a bit. There's this whole project about what can we do to get the results of research out into the hands of people that need it. And again, what other things should we be prioritizing? This was a study that asked a couple of different things. How do we do that? And so that is my appeal to everybody out there. All of you watching right now, I don't have the list to see. Sometimes we get single digits. Sometimes we get a fair number of people out there. I don't have that handy. But to anyone who is watching, my ask of you is to tell me what you need. Tell me what you need of me. Tell me what kind of media I can do. Tell me what I've started doing some podcasts. If you like just the audio versions of stuff, I like doing these videos all the time. I've been doing, like I said, a live show. It has kind of gone, we did a weekly show for a while and then took a break, and then I went to every other week for a while. During the pandemic, we've been on pretty much every day. Every weekday at least, doing different things. And again, tune in tomorrow for some more Fitness Friday stuff. But I need to know what is most important for all of you out there, whether you are somebody who lives with COPD, whether you are a caregiver, whoever it is that you are. I need to know what I can do for you so that I can push that forward, so that I can use, again, my breath and my voice and all this stuff to keep all these things driving forward. And I appreciate, Melanie, I appreciate you saying thank you. That's not why I'm saying this. I mean, I appreciate that, absolutely. I'm not out here looking for, believe it or not, I'm not out here looking for kudos, all that stuff, which is another thing that's really been grinding me lately about my own profession. And I hate to kind of unload on folks, but I guess this is just an unloady kind of day. We've got so many people out there who are just like, where's my discount? Where's my this? Where's my that? It's just driving me nuts lately. I just want to help. I don't even care if nobody knows who I am. I just want to be able to, I would like to be able for people, some people to know who I am so that I can do this full time and I can do this more often and I can do it more effectively. But the key is we've got to do it together also. So Melanie also says, and thank you for joining us today again, by the way. Frustrating to get denials and kickback from payers for equipment. Yes, absolutely. I do know Melanie works with actually my good friend here. Who I thought about naming Bronco the bear for bronchiectasis, but I wasn't sure if that was going to. Well, and we're the Broncos here in Kalamazoo, but I wasn't sure if that was going to fit. So I'm trying to think of naming contest for our good friend, the bronchiectasis / May the 4th be with us Star Wars bear. That is an excellent representative of what Melanie is talking about. The vest that our friend the bear is wearing here is called a high frequency chest wall oscillation vest. A couple of different brands out there. This one you can see it has tubes because this one connects to a larger piece of equipment that pushes air through there and causes a lot of percussion. There are some that have battery operated motors. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there, but the idea of this is that much like we have the easy version of this is like level 1 where with the oscillatory pep, we can start knocking stuff loose there. When that doesn't work, we can do this because the air that pumps through here basically vibrates like this, high frequency oscillating the chest wall. And that really helps knock loose a lot of the junk in there. And it works really well when you can get it covered. We usually see it covered in a condition called cystic fibrosis, where the lungs produce an unnatural or an abnormal amount of very, very thick mucus, and it's difficult to clear. You've got to have that extra manual percussion and all that stuff driving things forward. We've also found that it can be very effective in people with COPD when they're more on the chronic bronchitis side of things. When they have a lot of that extra secretion, that it's not necessarily the dry coughs, it's all the stuff out there. But it is incredibly difficult to get covered in many cases. Just because somebody has decided that that's the way it should be. And so we have to do all these prior authorizations, and we have to jump through all these hoops, and we have to handle all this paperwork just so that somebody can get the therapy that a clinician says they should get. And again, I ask, what sense does that make? I know it's one of those things that it seems like it was. John says, easy on the bear, don't be shaking him down for spare change. It is I feel a little bit weird when I'm doing that because I don't want to be, this is not the appropriate way to handle a human of this size, so I don't want to be doing that, but he's been a good companion for me for a while here. So we can raise awareness, as Melanie is also pointing out, helping raise awareness for airway clearance therapies that help patients breathe better with payers. Yes, that's what we need to be doing. That is what the essence of a lot of this advocacy work is. And it's frustrating because we know as clinicians what people should get. Let me rephrase that. We often know. We know when we ask the right questions and we include the person in our care as a partner rather than just saying, this is what I think you should have. This is what you need. Boy, I got the hiccups today. It must be the angry hiccups or something. When we take the time to actually work with the people in our care and we say, this is, and try a few different things and figure out what that path is, the clinicians know what you need. Or not even what you need, but how to get you to where you want to be. You know what you need, and it's our job to get you those tools and to teach you how to use them. But then we add this whole layer of other complexity when we get into these pay requirements and stuff like that. And those are the things that I hope to change. And I hope to do that with this kind of media, this kind of effort. That's really what my goal is. And so that's part of the reason. And it's falling apart today. Usually it's tech issues. Today it's like human issues because my contact is falling out. I got the hiccups. I don't even know what all's going on. But I want to keep changing and evolving and adapting to what everybody else needs. And so my hope is by doing a lot of these programs, by doing the Zoom conference tonight, the Ready Room, oops, starting at the wrong side there. Join the Ready Room tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you go to our COPD Navigator Facebook page, you will find information there, or you can drop a comment in there, wherever your comment bar happens to be. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, or if you're the first person ever to watch us on Twitch, because we're still running an average viewer count of 0.0 there, which is fun. Not a lot of gamers interested in COPD apparently, but that is one of the sources that my streaming account can feed to, so that's where we're at. Anyway, if you're interested in the Zoom tonight, let me know. This is kind of a trial thing. We don't really have a big agenda or anything like that. I want to get a little bit of social stuff going. We can do, but some of the things that I want to do with it are the harmonicas for health that we've been driving through all week. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We can do harmonica for health sessions. We can do a lot of telehealth stuff. This is a big deal for telehealth right now. And these are the things that I want to be able to provide for folks going forward at reduced or reasonable cost. I want to be able to be the kind of therapist that everybody wants to be. Hopefully I'm capable of doing that. But in order to do that, I need your help and need your guidance. So another question coming in here. This is from Diana, checking in from here in Kalamazoo. So the frustrations you are trying to address, I think it's the same across so many special. Oh, absolutely. This is not unique to COPD. My wife and I have conversations, and I told her all about the CVS story, as John calls it. Told her all about that this morning. She was telling me a story about how she herself, as a provider, now again, she is a provider, a prescriber. Her time is far more valuable than mine even. And I hear these stories from the physicians, the attendings I work with, on the phone for hours at a time, not doing patient care, not doing clinically relevant stuff, but on hold, filling out paperwork. There's studies that come out every year in physician groups. This is up to you. Most practices now have a full-time equivalent position just to do prior authorizations for medications and for procedures. And still, even with a dedicated person to do that stuff, still something like a third of them just get abandoned either by the clinic or by the patient because it's just futile. Truly, this kind of resistance has seemed to be futile so far, as my Borg friend here would say. She was telling me the story about she spent, I believe it was 45 minutes to an hour herself on the phone. Her medical assistant spent another additional amount of time on the phone. And then when the patient called the insurance company told the patient, we have no record, we have no memory of anybody contacting us about that prior authorization. How do you not have a record of that? I had to give my name twice today. I had to identify the person I was calling on twice today. And yet there's no record of this stuff. So yes, Diana, to your point, it is absolutely the same across so many specialties. Clinicians and patients are together, but then the other end, it's the insurance end. It's not running with the same purpose, mission, or values. How do we tackle that? Well, again, that's where we've got to seeing my dirty secrets there. I had a little Sprite earlier today. Just noticed that now. We've got to be speaking with this voice. That is why it's so important for us to all have the conversations. And that's the importance of these kinds of meetings, these kinds of settings, these kinds of programs. Whether it's me, whether it's the COPD Foundation programs that come out from time to time, whoever it is, there are groups out there that do speak with this purpose and aim to get stuff together. Earlier this year, I went to a meeting with a group, was it this year? Might have been before, beginning of the winter. I can't remember exactly when it was, but in any event, not important. A group in Michigan called Health Can't Wait, trying to at least bring, while we know that the elimination of prior authorization is nice, would be the right thing to do, but is really an impossible goal right now in the face of so much lobbying and so much pressure and so much everything else that happens in politics. We at least want to have a rational set of criteria for which prior authorizations for procedures and for medications are evaluated. We want to make sure that we have somebody who, if you're evaluating a respiratory medication prior authorization, you have some experience with respiratory medications. We've got people who, and again, no shame on, for example, podiatrists, but we've got podiatrists evaluating neurological procedures or respiratory medications. We've got, and vice versa, we might have a retired pulmonologist trying to figure out what kind of dermatology consult you need or things like that. We've got people operating far outside their specialties. The person I called today that I said was allegedly a pharmacist, and I say allegedly because I have a lot of respect for pharmacists. I feel this is the cliche. Some of my best friends are pharmacists, but I have a lot of good coworkers and have worked with a lot of fantastic, very knowledgeable, incredibly brilliant pharmacists over the years. This pharmacist who is making a decision about what we should give to this person didn't know what class of medication Brovana was. Didn't know if it was an inhaled corticosteroid or a beta agonist. And now I get it if you don't know what it is. It shouldn't be the case because your clinician should have explained it to you better. And we should, we have a lot of resources. We have, while admittedly the nebulizers are not reflected on the infamous poster here. I gotta figure out the slightly different lighting here. I get in the shadows a lot. The downside to the change is I had all the lighting just where I wanted it, and now it's all different. But we should be able to teach you as a patient, as a receiver of care. We should be able to teach you about your medication. But sometimes that doesn't always happen. Sometimes that doesn't always. Spectacular English today. You can tell when I get on a tear because my English, who knows what happens. In any event. And it even makes sense if you are, for example, maybe a nurse. Happy Nurses Week again. Or whoever. If you don't know necessarily what the class is, it's fine. It happens. We get it. But if you're the person making a decision about what somebody is entitled to receive, you damn well better, pardon the language, but you should know what those classes are. If you are going to talk to me about respiratory medications, you should know what the respiratory medications are. And I have had other people who are allegedly pharmacists not even know that there are different classes of medications. They tell me that they all have the same FDA approval and that's good enough. And that is not good enough. Diana goes on, the pharmacists I have worked with for the past 30 years have been very knowledgeable and helpful. Absolutely. And most of them on the front line are. I would even go so far as to say everybody on the front line is. I mean, of course, you're going to have folks that are better and worse. You see that in respiratory therapists. You see that in doctors and nurses, whoever. You may not know, not everybody has to know everything, but you have to at least acknowledge when you don't know it and go out and figure it out. But again, if you are working in a place where you are making the final decision about whether something is appropriate or not, you should know. So, yes, I'm cranky. I'm a little salty, as the kids would say, about some of that stuff. But again, I want to. It's hard. You can't overemphasize the importance of wanting to work together. So that's why I'm really appreciative of everybody who is joining on the meeting today, right now, house call. And I'm also really looking forward to hopefully seeing some people tonight at 7 Eastern for the Ready Room to figure out what else we can, what I want to see what you all need to go forward. If it's a value add, if it's a feasible platform, if it's something useful, because if it's not, then that's cool. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. But then I want to put my attention and my energy into different directions. It's been another thing I've been dealing with this year is figuring, or this last couple of weeks. There are certain groups that just aren't worth the fight anymore. But that's a whole other topic, and it's certainly nothing in COPD right here. But I want to make sure that this is always the thing we see you get real angry about, because it's just dumb. I don't mind having to justify a decision. I've spent my whole career doing that. Used to be in talking about ventilators, I would have to, I would make my case. This is why I think this ventilator setting needs to change. This is why I think we need to go onto this mode. I think this is why we need to do a certain thing. I don't mind doing that. I don't feel attacked. There are people who, when there are people who just want to be obeyed, basically. Even in my own profession, it's like, well, I'm the respiratory therapist. I'm the expert. You should just do it. I don't like that. I don't want to be that. And I don't mind defending why I think a patient needs one medication over another, whether they need one device over another. I have that rationale. That's my job to explain. I'm the explainer. I am the one who explains. If I got any Breaking Bad fans out there. I love that. I love the teaching. I love the explanation. I love the when I have the evidence and I have this rationale, I don't mind doing that. What I mind is arbitrary capriciousness. What I mind, and so yes, you're right. That is what gets me real angry, and I know I keep coming back to it, but I just keep banging my head against it, and I haven't figured out how to get over that. So. But let's see what else is in the news today. I'm going to try and take advantage of some of my other screens and such here. Again, trying to figure out what the best... hopefully the signal, it does seem to be a little bit stronger today. I took some of the load off my streaming computer, because it used to be that I had... The streaming computer was also what I had to watch all the comments and stuff on. I got one of the older computers in the house that isn't good for much else anymore, but it is really good for. It's got a big screen on it so that I can see the comments a little bit easier and all that stuff. Oh, I just noticed one of the comment screens had gone away, but fortunately there's no extra comments there. So what else we got going on in the world of COPD these days? Did not, unfortunately, get a chance to go over the new issue of Chest last night, so that's still potentially at risk. And we still don't have a lot of news coming out here. I will say that one of the things that I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about, read a little bit more about, see a little bit more about this fall when we hopefully continue to have our AARC Congress, which I've just been working on lately. We're trying to figure out what some of our contingency plans are if we need them. There's this idea that there's this concept in healthcare called adverse childhood events, or ACEs. And there seems to be a really distinct connection between some of these ACEs and the development of COPD later on in life. Now, a lot of that comes from the idea of if you have more of there's actually a score called the ACEs score, or if you have a lot of these adverse events, and it's not necessarily even, I mean, there's a whole gamut from actual abuse and neglect and all that stuff to divorce and to seeing bad things and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that also leads to substance abuse later on in life, including tobacco. And we know, of course, 70-80% of COPD is caused by tobacco. But there is still a distinct connection between a lot of those things. So there's some interesting research coming out about that. I don't have anything in hand right now, but it is something that is on our agenda for Congress this fall. And if I've got any RTs out there, I am going to fight for that one. So be ready to learn about that come the fall. Hello to Catherine, checking in, waving. Always like the hand emoji, the waving hand emoji. Diana, you should not get over it. It takes some passion to tackle the man. You are as upset as you need to be. Thank you for advocating for your people. I appreciate that. I know, I suppose there is an audience for repeat anger. I know that there's a lot of people on TV and the radio and even on the internet who make a really good money just by yelling into a microphone for 3 hours a day or whatever. I suppose I could do that. I don't know that that would be great for my blood pressure. I don't really want to get blood pressure back up. So, Catherine, a loose topic for the day. If you have a question or anything like that, please feel free. The biggest thing the two things that we've been talking about so far, what you might be talking about now, the idea that these things called adverse childhood events can affect your likelihood to get COPD later on in life. That's something I want to hopefully investigate, especially come this fall when we go to our national conference. We've got a couple of talks on that. The other big issue of the day has just been talking about why prior authorizations suck. And why having to jump through all those all that paperwork is just dumb. Also, change has been kind of a topic of the day. Changing the studio around a little bit here, the home studio, which hopefully is going to go well. We've got our conference tonight, our Zoom conference. See if I can do it right because I changed my preview again, so I need more monitors. I need as many monitors as I need it to look like a TV truck in here, when they go to the live show with all the different monitors. But I want to, I got it right this time. The Ready Room tonight is a Zoom conference that we're going to be doing, where we have a little bit more interactivity, a little bit more real-time stuff, a little bit of a, ideally face-to-face, but of course nobody is mandated to use their webcam or anything like that. There are phone call-in numbers. You can just use audio, whatever it is you like. I had a couple people interested, but hopefully we can get a couple people more so that we can figure out if we can do things like harmonica or inhaler technique teaching, all that kind of stuff. Just a little bit more of an engaged webinar kind of thing. But otherwise, the floor is yours if you want it. We've probably got about 10-15 minutes to go. Actually started pretty close to on time today. It did take a minute to get all the sharing and stuff done, but that was fine. I did see, let's see, I got an email about a webinar. I think it was tomorrow. Let's see. It was a COPD based webinar. I think it might have been more the clinician side, but I'm just checking. Oh, that was Monday. So Monday there's going to be a review of the latest gold Global Initiative for Chronic Obstructive Lung Disease report that came out in the fall. Probably a little bit more oriented for clinicians, but still could be a good thing. I know I saw something else floating around for, I would have sworn I saw something maybe for from the COPD Foundation or something like that. Let's see. Anyway, if anybody knows of some webinars, let me know, because I am very happy to advertise for other folks, because I certainly can't well ask for people to like, share, and subscribe if I'm not willing to do the same, right? I guess I could go to the actual COPD Foundation because it wasn't in my email. So let's see, COPD Foundation. Seems like, well, let's go into good old 360 Social, which is the foundation's social media site. And again, the last call for any other questions or anything like that before we wrap things up too much today. Okay, why can't I just go to... Well, can I click on the PD? There we go. All right, maybe it was just another survey. I'm not sure. Thought we had a webinar coming up. Anyway, if I see anything, I will be sure to post it out there. Lisa, welcome from Colorado, fellow respiratory therapist. Thank you for joining the program today. Sorry for the dead air there. Just trying to. I would have sworn I saw something about a COPD webinar in the next couple of days, and now I just cannot find it anywhere. Yeah, we have a meeting tonight. It's again, it's a web conference thing. I will, as a matter of fact, well, I'll just make it easy, and should be able to, without too much trouble, drop it into the chat feed here in both the watch party and the general feed. Just give me one moment for the computer to load up here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to hop back to Jeannie, who says, like to see pulmonary prescription medicines come down in price. I've gone to all nebulizer meds to save money, but hate how much time it takes. So that is a really complicated issue. And I hate to be that guy, but it also comes back to a lot of the insurance companies. Because the way a lot of this stuff works is, here we go. I'm going to drop, we've got, found the post, so I'm going to copy that. And, whoops, doesn't work if I'm not using the right keyboard, does it? So that's our web meeting there in the watch party, and then it's going to be coming through. Hey, there's John Linnell came through for me. Tomorrow, COPD making sense of telehealth and virtual exercise. So, John, if you happen to have a link for that handy, if you could drop that in there while my contact is trying to jump out of my eyeball again. That would be great, so I can promote that also, and we'll promote that hopefully on the webinar tonight, or the Zoom conference tonight too. So all that stuff's going on tonight. Back to Jeannie's question about, or her statement about costs of medications. I wholeheartedly agree. It's one of those things that trying to think of how good intentions gone awry. There's this whole idea, and I did a whole podcast about this. If you want to go, if you're interested, and if you want to listen to it, it's about an hour long, so it's a little bit lengthy, but you can break it up a little bit if you do any podcast listening. There's this whole idea of what we call pharmacy benefit managers, and the way these things started was a lot of smaller insurance companies, and I believe, if I recall correctly, even pharmacies would kind of join together to have this bigger purchasing power. Because, when you buy stuff in bulk, it always works better. But then we started to get like this consolidation and this kind of big monstrous thing. And now there's only like 3 that dominate 80% of the market. And those 3 pharmacy benefit managers dictate, basically, they run the formularies for your insurance. All right, so I'm going to see John. Thanks, John. They run the formularies. And if something isn't on formulary, then, or if it's at a high tier because it's a brand medication, because most stuff is still brand name right now, because we had very little, there weren't a lot of inhalers back then, and what there were, they got reformulated because they were supposedly killing the ozone layer and all that stuff. So everything went brand name again. And if it's not on formulary, then the stuff costs a lot of money, because it admittedly does cost a lot of research and development to do all that stuff. And there is certainly an argument to be made about what is a fair price for those medications when they're set by the manufacturer. But the problem is, a lot of times these pharmacy benefit managers demand kind of what amounts to a kickback. They want a rebate in order for a particular medication to be covered on a formulary. And sometimes that's okay, because if you have a class of medication that comes in a pill or something like that, maybe you have 2 or 3 competitors, all that stuff, that might work okay, because you can switch from one to the other without a whole lot of effects. But when you're talking about inhalers, and you've got a meter dose inhaler versus a dry powder inhaler that takes an entirely different inhalation technique, and the amount of medication you actually get depends entirely on your inhalation technique, it can be disastrous to switch from one medication to another. And so it's really difficult to get that. And so, again, we get into the prior auth, or if you have to pay street price, it's incredibly expensive. And even the percentage copays, we've switched from, the kind of the fixed dollar copay to the whole percentage copays. And so, yeah, a lot of this stuff is absolutely ridiculous. And so then you see people like Jeannie who get tossed onto, well, you have to do it with the nebulizer because that gets through Part B and it's cheaper and all that stuff. But then you're tied to it and it takes a lot longer. And then you see things that make absolutely no sense. Like now, in the last 6 months, we've had a handful of generic, for example, albuterol inhalers come out. We're having prior authorization requests for generic medications because even though the industry has spent the last 10, 20 years telling people that generics are just as good and you should get generics whenever possible, and all the pharmacies automatically substitute generics, the generics aren't on formulary because they're still manufactured by somebody, and that manufacturer hasn't given the pharmacy benefit manager a rebate to have them cover their generic. So it's actually cheaper to get a name brand like Ventolin or Proventil or ProAir or whatever than it is the generic albuterol. And it's another layer of complexity, and it makes no sense. So yes, Jeannie, you're absolutely right. We need to do stuff about the costs of medications, but we also have to make sure that we're going about it smartly. It's really easy to get mad and focus all that anger on just the drug manufacturers. It's also really easy to get mad and focus all that on just the insurance companies, when actually it's the man in the middle that we should be looking at, that is perfectly content to watch everybody get mad at this side and watch everybody get mad at this side, and they just sit there and eat their popcorn and they sit in the shadows because no one knows who they are. So we've got to get smart about who we're going after. And that's, again, a reason why we all have to team up and tag each other in. So John has found a Facebook link for me for the COPD Foundation webinar If you're watching the video on Facebook or YouTube, you should be able to have access to that pretty easily. Well, I want to copy and paste now. Copy, paste. Oh, because again, that's the wrong keyboard. All right. So this is an event put on by the COPD Foundation, talking about a lot of the issues that we talk about here. The importance of telehealth. We talk about telehealth is kind of having a moment right now because it is, again, so important to have this kind of interaction where you, from the privacy and the comfort of your own home, can have questions answered. You can be social and have a Harmonicas for Health party. You can say, how do I use my inhaler? And I can show you the proper technique. You can say, how do I use my holding chamber? I've got those. I mean, we can do all this stuff, whether it's an informal setting like this, or whether it's a formal thing like a virtual visit through your your electronic medical record. It's very important to be able to do that stuff. And the COPD Foundation is putting together some materials to help you make sense of all that stuff, as well as virtual exercise. We've seen, I know Stephanie Williams has helped facilitate a couple of different virtual exercise things. Tomorrow, let's see, their thing is at 1 o'clock, I believe. 2 to 3 Central Time. So that's 3 to 4 Eastern Time. So that is that will be a great lead. Maybe, John, you can throw a plug in for this too. That's a great lead into Fitness Friday tomorrow. We're going to be doing... might be doing a dance-off again. Kelly was really excited about that. We might be doing something like that. We also have a new piece of equipment to demonstrate that we got that you can do in a couple of different settings. So maybe we'll have a combination of things. We did some chair exercises last week, chair yoga, chair aerobics, and chair Tai Chi. So get your basic information prior to that. While I'm getting ready for Fitness Friday, and then bring all that stuff over to COPD Navigator here and share what you learned. And then we'll go on with what we learned also. I did see Catherine's got a comment here. My insurance doesn't cover any of the inhalers I use. They said I need to use Tier 2. Someone asked what is covered under Tier 2. They said they don't have anything for inhalers. Yeah. I mean, and how devastating is that? It's incomprehensible. Companies, the insurance companies who are the PBMs that are setting these formularies, are policymakers. I've gone to Lansing several times now just to try to get people to understand that this is a medical device. This is not a pill. This is not a capsule. There's a technique that you need to it. There are different ways you need to compensate for that. And there aren't generic alternatives. Just because you can get, even when you can get them covered, just because you can get generic albuterol, that does not mean that works the same as Symbicort or Dulera or Brio or Stiolto or any of the other things in any of these combination classes. They're not the same. They're not interchangeable. It's absurd. So again, these are some of the things that I hope to continue the discussion on, whether it's tonight or whether it's down the road here with our other groups. Hopefully we can get the foundation on board with a lot of this stuff also. I know that these are all things that are very important to them. But again, we just all need to be speaking together with that voice and getting together and everything else, all the other cliches that we want to throw out there. So with that, I do have to get ready for tonight. So please, those of you who are able, I really look forward to seeing you tonight at 7 o'clock. Again, it's free. There's no pre-registration required. There will be a little bit of a waiting room set up. So please, if you can put your name when you sign into Zoom, you can do Zoom on your phone. You can do it on your computer, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop. You can call in. There's a couple of different lines out that you can call in. If you're having trouble, I will be around, hopefully with some tech support from my team upstairs. We'll be able to answer questions, send them through Facebook, send them through YouTube. You can tweet them to me. You can private message me. We're still working on getting an actual phone number, but we're working on it. I got the phone ready. I've got the COPD hotline ready to go for you. Just waiting on a number for that. So this was a fun gift that Kelly got me a couple years ago. to add to the collection here. But with all that said, I do hope to see many of you tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So in just about 2 hours from now, I'll be here. I hope that you will too. Real quick, Lynn says 20% discount on Bravana, but it cost me over $100. Yeah, this stuff is not sustainable. And then we wonder why people end up in the hospital, and then we penalize hospitals for people coming back with readmissions. Again, it's like this with oxygen. It's like it with meds. It's like it all over the place. On the one hand, we say you got to do these things, and then on the other hand, it's like, well, you're not gonna. What sense does that make? Anyway, happy to continue the conversation later on. Please feel free to gather your thoughts for the next couple hours. Let me know what you would want to see from a Zoom conference. We'll be there starting at 7. We'll be there for a while until we run out of stuff to talk about. Hopefully the first of many conferences. But please let me know what you would like to see in a more interactive setting, and we'll see how we can make that work. In the meantime, I will give you my now customary pitch for liking, sharing, and subscribing these videos, because hopefully that helps get the word out. Like our page on Facebook. Feel free to join our group on Facebook. There's a link to it from the page. I've got a YouTube channel and a Twitter account. All of those things are going to be helpful. I have started what's called a Patreon account, where this is where some things we might have a little bit of a subscription model for it. All that money goes right back into creating content, so it's a good way for you to if there's something you want, that's how I'll be able to do it. So, but in the meantime, House Call is and always will be free, and we will be doing all these things. Like I said, everything goes right into advocacy and all that stuff. And I will continue to do whatever I can for whoever I can, as long as I can do it. So until then, hopefully I'll see you at 7 o'clock. Otherwise, we'll see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock after the COPD Foundation webinar for Fitness Friday, doing some virtual exercise, getting that all that exciting stuff going. We'll be seeing you then. Hope you continue to breathe lightly through the light of COPD Navigator. Hope you continue to stay safe, stay home, and stay strong. And I hope you continue to, until tomorrow, back that up a little bit. Still working on what a good sign-off is, but we'll get there. Until tomorrow, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you either tonight or tomorrow at COPD Navigator House Call. My name is Mike Hess, and it has been an absolute pleasure talking with everybody today. We'll see you next time.